So we finally reached the final arc of Young Justice Phantom Season 4. Okay, so take a rundown of where we are right now. So Zatanna has come to the conclusion that Connor is alive and she needs to find out where he is, how to find him. Whatever, she suspects he might be in the Phantom Zone, but she needs to find out. So she goes to Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, and she tells him that she suspects that Connor is still alive, and he's a little skeptical, but they decide to go through to investigate what's happened. While they investigated, they end up discovering that Bat Kid Flash is missing, and they end up learning about the Legion of Superheroes. They go to see Superman, who tells them that he can't reveal anything because he found out that the Legion of Superheroes come from the future and all these things, so he can't tell them anything that would disrupt the future. However, they put it together that most likely these people are from the future, and that is why he doesn't want to talk. They even go through this ridiculous thing where they go to each member one by one to find out what's going on. When they eventually get to Rocket, they discover that from Zatanna taking a look at her memories and how she saw a glimpse into the Phantom Zone, she realizes from what she saw that is where Connor is, in the Phantom Zone. They end up going to see Calder, who has a beard now and looks stupid, honestly. But anyway, yeah, they tell him what's going on. He agrees to help. So they decide, let's be stupid and summon Clarion, who pretty much kicks their asses as usual, and that's that. They end up discovering, then Dick ends up finding the school bus that Clarion used as his anchor when he was passing through the different dimensions, including the Phantom Zone. And they decide to fix it up to use it to enter into the Phantom Zone. Meanwhile, Lord Zod is in control of the bioship, and he's holding the Legions and Bat hostage. We end up getting to discover now that I'll get back to the Kaiser Thrall in a little bit. Let me talk about one thing that happened one of the episodes that happened in this arc that actually kind of had some potential, but they never, certain part of it had potential, but they never focused on it anymore. We get to look at Markovia now, where this metahuman called Lizard Johnny is being chased by some metahuman haters, and Brion and his Infinitors end up saving him. But Brion is unaware that a member of his team called Everyman is actually the one responsible for inciting these anti-metahuman mobs and things in his country. Right? He's the one doing it behind the scenes because he's working for the advisor. So they end up taking Lizard Johnny back to the palace where he will be safe, because he decides he doesn't want to fight and anything like that. He just wants to live a peaceful life. Meanwhile, Brion's advisor, the same guy who is working for the light and has him under mind control, and probably a lot of others, understand me, he has some mind control and influence Lizard Johnny to get him to want to join up and fight, making Brion suspicious of what's going on. But every time he starts to get a little suspicious of something, my boy just moves in, does a little bit more of the brainwashing, and he doesn't worry about it too much anymore. While that's happening, Violet, aka Halo, is moving into her college dorm with Harper Rue, who then admits to Violet, that she has feelings for her. Big shocker, because ever since season 3, when she kissed her, we all pretty much knew she was jonesing to start scissoring with Violet. It was plain as day, plain as flicking day, that's what it is they were pushing. Now Brion and Violet's relationship was, I think was pretty nice. Again, as I say, I rather liked Halo when they introduced her. I thought she was an interesting character. I mean, yes, they kind of race swapped and think this character one than the other, but it had some interest in her, and seeing how we would have grown But ever since they put across that whole Harper kissing her thing, I could see where they were looking to go with this. So she admits her feelings for her and one than the other. So then Violet goes to Black Canary's little therapy group session thing where everybody sits around and talks about their feelings. We have Beast Boy, who seems to be a little more mentally stable. Okay, good for that. And he now has a support animal, a support dog that helps him get outside and, talk more. I mean, it's not like, he could literally become any animal in the animal kingdom. But, he has a support dog. And you have Cyborg talking about he's reaching out more to his father, and, even Tara is there and talking and one than the other. And, I mean, look, I have no problem with this, per se. I have a problem with the execution of it. I think that, nothing wrong with anybody going for therapy, it's fine. In the first season, it happened, it had the one episode where they end up thinking and they had to confront themselves, but they worked through it and they moved on. This has been an ongoing thing for this season where pretty much Black Canary becomes like everybody's den mother and everybody needs help, everybody needs this. Again, as I said, when it comes to Beast Boy, I don't think as a character this is how Beast Boy would operate. I think Beast Boy would be more like, sit down and talk with his friends or something, or get something and move on from that. But this whole giving him an emotional support dog and all kind of thing is just ridiculous on the face of it. So Violet goes to see Brion and talks with him about, how they still have their unresolved feelings, and he tells her that, he still wants to be with her and he needs her help. While they're talking, in comes Mr. Advisor, Brain Control Man, who again starts working his brain control on Brion and possibly on Violet too, because when he comes in, they start to get very violent and all that. And Violet going around now addressing herself as them, because it's very important that we push this non-binary crap, even though it has no basis in this whatsoever. But let's keep doing it. I mean, it's failing miserably in comics, but let's keep doing it here. And then, after that, she ends up leaving Brion and God. And that was like the end of it. And I'm like, come on. This had potential. I want to see what happens with Brion. He's being mind controlled, and you idiots don't seem to get it or care. Common thing when it comes to Young Justice, they have a habit of just abandoning people, but whatever. Meanwhile, in the Phantom Zone, Superboy reveals to Zod, who they've made black now again for some reason, and his wife Ursa, what happened with Krypton, what happened with Superman, how Kryptonians get powers on their yellow sun, all sort of stuff he tells them and whatnot. Phantom Girl, who has been pretending to be asleep, wakes up and tells Superboy that he can't trust Zod and they need to get out of there. And then she gives him the dumbest reason as to how they ended up in there, because I have been wondering for the longest while how they ended up in the Phantom Zone. Because how Phantom Girl's powers work, it's basically genetic. She phases between her planet and other realities, and that's how she gets intangible and stuff, right? She phases that and it moves on, so it's not really a thing. But she says when Superboy was in the lava trying to detonate the bomb, trying to keep the bomb from landing and stuff, she flew in there to save him. And when she grabbed onto him and tried to phase, apparently the density of his atoms or whatever caused them to end up in the Phantom Zone. That makes no freaking sense. The Phantom Zone is a locked dimensional prison. You don't just phase into it by accident. I mean, I could have understood if somebody had attached something to the bomb, and when she tried to phase it, it warped her into that dimension, because again, as I say, had they done this correctly and put in an actual villain that you could actually connect with, somebody you could say, well, okay, I am actually interested in somebody who came from the future. Maybe that's why the Legion of Superheroes are here to deal with this person who is smart enough and cunning enough to do these things. All right, but no. Instead, we get Lord Zod and his daddy issues crap, and Now we have a ridiculous reason of his molecules were too dense and end up in the Phantom Zone. It doesn't make any flicking sense, boy. So anyway, since since Superboy has now been pretty much brainwashed by Zod, he turns on Phantom Girl and reveals that she's awake and she doesn't trust him and wants him to go. So she phases out of the Phantom Zone and ends up back on Mars, leaving him there. How, I don't know, but apparently once she's out, she can't phase back into the Phantom Zone. It makes less and less sense the more I say it. Yeah. Oh, Father. Now anyway, Nightwing, Zatanna, Calder, Rocket, and Artemis use the school bus that Clarion was zipping through, dimensions with, to enter into the Phantom Zone to rescue Superboy. When they go in there now, they are confronted by Zod's forces who were waiting for them. Fight ensues, they end up losing. Superboy, as I say, brainwashed, so he's with them, and so he's with Zod and them. They end up having to retreat. Okay. When it is now, you go to the Kaiser Thrall. I'm not explain it to me, the Kaiser Thrall. It's discovered by the Green Lanterns that the Kaiser Thrall has the remains of an 11-year-old human boy in it. So they go to Earth, right? They go to so female forager takes it to Earth, and Miss Martian connects with the Kaiser Thrall. It turns out the human boy is Danny Chase, who was kidnapped by the Light. He's a meta-human, was kidnapped by the Light, trafficked to Apocalypse, where Desad literally cut his brain out while he was still alive. Right? Because apparently we don't have to care about anybody anymore. We just cut the people's brain out while they're alive and sticking it in the Kaiser Thrall. And because he have some abilities that could allow him to warp dimensional space one than the other, it's just his brain remaining inside the Kaiser Thrall in there. Sick as shit, but that's what happens. Anyway, the Martian Prince contacts the Justice League, and he arrives with Phantom Girl and tells them, including Miss Martian, that Superboy is still alive, and she reveals what happened with the whole she went into the Phantom Zone with him, and he been brainwashed and all of this. Okay. So they decide that they will need to get into the Phantom Zone to get them out. The Kaiser Thrall reveals that if it connected to a mother box, it could open up a portal into the Phantom Zone. So they decided to do it on a planet with a red sun, so the Kryptonians who come through won't have their superpowers, and since they're criminals, they would go all crazy and whatnot. Drew, Zod, and his group and his little band of criminals intercept this, and they go there waiting for them. They end up Malafalak and Law take control of the Kaiser Thrall, disabling them because it knocks them out. And then when the portal opens up now, Zod, Ursa, and Connor leave the Phantom Zone. But so when they reach there now, Law greets them, says that he's their son and whatnot, and the other reveals all of this to them and whatnot and thing. Okay. Then he takes them to Superman's Fortress of Solitude and puts them in chambers to get them, re-energized by the by yellow sun radiation. It's pretty ridiculous, but it starts to make a little more sense not really sense, but starts to make a little more thing as it goes along. Meanwhile, with the exception of Nightwing, who goes through the portal and then ends up back in the Fortress of Solitude and ends up destroying the pods that Zod and Ursa was in, and then he gets trapped under some fallen debris by by Lord and his heat vision, which knocks him out. So you see blood coming out from his head, and then you hear his heartbeat slow down and stop. You know, it's pretty obvious at that point that he's just faking that because Batman has done it already, but, you know, they're stupid, so they don't business about it. Meanwhile, the entrance to the boom tube is being guarded by Calder, Artemis, Rocket, and the others to keep the other Kryptonians from coming through. So they're fighting them off there and, you know, barely holding on and whatnot. Meanwhile, we have Ursa, who apparently after getting to Earth and getting some of the taste of her powers becomes a power-hungry mad woman, and she wants more and all of this. While inside Metron's vault, Law ended up stealing this thing called the Eye of Ekron. And the Eye of Ekron, sensing her murderous need for power, decides to activate and attach itself to her, turning her into the Emerald Empress, because God forbid they stay true to law of anything. Now, once it turns her into the Emerald Empress, I pretty much knew where this was going. I pretty much knew exactly where this was going. Eventually, Boom Tube destabilizes. Zatanna, Artemis, and Calder get back to the school bus, but Rocket gets caught inside of the boom tube when the portal destabilizes, and she's gone. So Ursa uses the Eye of Ekron to take down the bioship that Superman and the rest of them are on as they're heading back to Earth to try and stop them. So it shoots them down right outside. Superman comes out of the bioship, but then they poison him with kryptonite. And then they open up boom tube and go to Metropolis, where Zod claims that he's going to be new god over Earth, and they have Superman and Superboy there. So then he orders Superboy to execute Superman. Big setup for the final episode. Wow, very shocking. So we arrive to the final episode. Let me just run through this exactly what happens. Now we get it's revealed in a flashback that both Nightwing and Miss Martian fake their respective deaths. Nightwing ends up cutting his head so it will bleed, and then he ends up slowing his heartbeat. Megan uses mind control and a little magic and thing to make it look like, you know, that the ship had crashed and everybody was pretty much dead. So they concoct a plan. They head to Metropolis with Kid Flash, the Legion, and one of the bioships. And they end up reuniting with Calder and Zatanna and Artemis and find out what happened to Rocket. So while they go there now and Zod tells Superboy to kill Superman, he starts to have flashbacks and that, you know, he can't do it, his family, so they decide to take him out too, but then the other heroes show up and start to keep them busy. Miss Martian restores Superboy's memories, so he and Superman team up to fight Drew Zod and Law Zod. It's a very unimpressive fight. You would think after all this time they would be able to put up a better struggle and show it some more. But again, you pretty much see it's just like barely passive, and they're all trying to get this done before the sun comes up and the Kryptonians get their full powers. I mean, honestly, in Man of Steel, it looked a little better. Them in they were in like their armor and thing, and they still had some powers, even though, and in fact, it looked a little better than this. This just looked very, 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 very slow and all of that. But anyway, Rocket comes back alive, big shocker, and Danny and she and Rocket, the Kaiser Thrall, I'm gonna call it Danny because this is brave, but let's call it Danny, ends up taking down Malafalak and the Kryptonians, and then you know, Miss Martian goes all brain jacking on Ursa. I'm sorry, Empress, Emerald Empress. You know, but not too bad. Let's try to stop her from doing anything with the other. But then as it looks like she's going to lose, the Eye of Ekron encloses her in a bubble and takes off into space, because of course the women have to survive. I mean, God forbid it had been both her and and Zod had gotten away, and they could have started plotting some really cold, badass revenge or something. No. She escapes. Zod and the rest of his Kryptonian wannabes get kicked back into the Phantom Zone. And then next thing you know, you see that she is Ursa is headed towards the planet Daxam, and she reveals that she's still pregnant with Lord Zod, and that she's going to grow up to wage vengeance against the House of Hell, like anybody's supposed to give her crap. When they start to lose, Lord Zod takes the time sphere that Rocket came in, that she got from Metron, and he goes into it. But I will give Metron this. This was a very smart plan. When Lord Zod goes into it, he ends up going back to the time when Superboy was trying to destroy the bomb that he had set, right? And he realizes himself, he thinks, well, okay, he gotten a second chance at stopping him, but unfortunately, Metron thought of all of that and set it up so that Zod gets caught in the very explosion he set, killing him, and the very same outline thing of a blast of a person that they all thought was Superboy turns out to be him. So that's how he ended up dying. So Metron was pretty smart in that he set it up to make sure that the time stream remained the way it was while still getting his own revenge. So I'll give him that. They end up defeating them. Okay, big deal. Now, after that, we finally get the big wedding between Superboy and Miss Martian. They've been building up to this for the longest while. We finally get into it. And then, while they're at the ceremony, everybody shows up there who is, everybody in there, whether they're in costume or not. Black Canary, she proposes this idea of a sanctuary for heroes struggling with mental health issues to help them. Now, this was an idea that was also done in the in comics, where they had this sanctuary. It turned out to be this whole big murder mystery thing. And one of the key things about it was that Wally West was there, but he did end up getting killed during it. I doubt they may go down that road, but I'm just saying it set up that it ends up into something different. So while at the wedding, which I must say the wedding was done really well. We got to see them finally get married. You had John Kent there as the ring bearer. And of course, they have to put it front and center that, Violet and Harper are now a thing. You see them walking around holding hands, sitting down at the front there, holding hands, all looking into each other's eyes, all lovely and things, because, you have to put it out there that, we don't care about the story anymore. Let's just push this out to the front. And while that's going on, Brainiac 5 arrives from the future to retrieve the other Legionnaires. And I mean, honestly, at this point, I was just kind of happy for them to go, because I think they really wasted a good opportunity to have the Legion as superheroes do something here, but it was just really stupid, and they end up leaving. While everybody's celebrating this wedding and all of that, happy for them, they're completely unaware that Vandal Savage and Ultra Humanite have already, with the help of Clarion, gone into the Phantom Zone using the War World and literally abducted Zod and all of his entire army that was in them, like hundreds of them, and placed them in stasis inside the War World. So now Vandal Savage has an entire army of Kryptonians that he could brainwash into serving for him. So much for Superman being the last son of Krypton, right? So that's where they're gone. Meanwhile, Mala Falak, for his work with in helping Darkseid and all of this, is given a world where all his white Martians could go to, and this world is called Durla, which is also the future homeworld of Chameleon Boy. Now, if all you wanted was a planet where your white Martians could live in peace without being, persecuted, what in God's name was the point of all this criminal shit? You could have just, looked for one on your own, asked the Justice League, ask your sister for some help or something. Instead, no, you decided to be a terrorist, criminal, psychopath. Okay, we know where that's going. Now, after all of this has happened, while they at the wedding and all this stuff is going on, I mean, even Icicle Jr. is there because he's had an interest in it. I mean, he's still in handcuffs and because he's still a criminal, but he's still there and all of that. In our post-credit scene now, we get Granny Goodness introducing Darkseid to the two newest Furies. One is Black Mary, who, if you remember from when I did the arc with Zatanna and a little magical Power Rangers, Mary was the one who they decided not to let help because they said she didn't have control of powers and she left all angrily. I mean, God forbid you actually help her. No, just leave her to go. And then she started hearing Granny Goodness' voice talking to her to give in to the power, which she did. So apparently now she's become Black Mary. And a Kryptonian, the only Kryptonian that Darkseid wanted from the Phantom Zone. You understand me? The only Kryptonian he wanted turns out to be Kara Zor-El, who has been in the Phantom Zone for over 40 years along with the rest of them. How in God's name did she get there? Why was she sent there? What was the point? I mean, wouldn't it have been pretty similar to send her off in a rocket just like what? I mean, there's so many unanswered questions in this. It just doesn't make much sense, but that's what it is. This is what happened. This is the end of it. This is the last act. My next video, we're going to break down, what happened. Well, not really what happened. I'm going to break down my overview of it, and I'm going to give my final rating for this. So you could look forward to that one. Meanwhile, if you like the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you all next time. Take care.